This is Robert Newman. I'm here with Pam Dent, and we're doing some companion or commentary pieces on some of the blog posts that Pam has on her blog. And one of the first ones that came up, because it's doing very well in Google, and we're getting more traction on it than others, is cost of living. Cost of living. And we wrote a blog on the cost of living in Charlottesville, Virginia. And some of the things that came up that I found to be interesting as a non-Charlottesville resident is that Charlottesville, Virginia is a little bit more expensive to live in than the rest of the country, 18.9 points higher than that of the rest of the country, which means on average, Charlottesville residents are paying 5.1% more on basic expenses relative to the rest of the state. So my first question is that from the perspective of you live here in Charlottesville, I know for a fact that you travel the state frequently to visit people and spend time in other places. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think we've got actually a variety across the state.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from, we're a university town, there are a lot of amenities, a lot of great restaurants, and people want to come here. So supply and demand. Then you've got great areas of the state, large portions, southwestern Virginia comes to mind immediately, that are very rural, and they're a more lower income rural. And then you go up to Northern Virginia outside of DC, and that's even more expensive than it is in Central Virginia, Charlottesville. So I think part of it is land costs here are very expensive. There's only so much land left, and we're trying to keep a portion of it agricultural and beautiful and rolling, and not have it all turn into housing development like you see in some areas. So then those parts that we're selling for, lots for housing become more expensive.
Right. So let's talk about that. That's a good segue into a section of the blog that I found to be curious. And I'm just going to read through a little bit of it because I am wondering if it matches completely your thoughts, because it's a statistical or factual blog, and I think it's probably right, but it doesn't actually speak to the detailed perception of housing costs. Now that I've driven around with you for days talking about houses, I feel like maybe there's something to be said on this. So rent in Charlottesville costs less compared to the national average, which ranges from $1,099 to $2,049. In California, you can't rent much of anything for under $2,100 anymore. The monthly rent for a furnished 45 square foot meter studio apartment ranges from $791 to $1,100, while the monthly rent for a furnished 85 square meter apartment would cost about $1,200 to $1,500. So assuming that those numbers are correct, buying a house, however, is more expensive in the city, which I've definitely noticed. While the median home cost in the country is $216, home buyers in Charlottesville would have to save a bit more, as the median price here is $290. So here's my question for you. We didn't see that many $290 homes when we were driving around. Now that's either because the neighborhoods that you selected or were asked about don't have those homes, or the median price is relative to maybe a whole bunch of condominiums and stuff that we didn't look at. Now, do you have a thought on that?
Okay, well, we have two parts, because there's the rental part, and that is that most of our rental market is geared around the university.
Okay.
So, and the residents for the hospital. So they're student rentals, and they're going to have fewer amenities. They're not going to be as nice. We have very few people here, working people or whatever, that are choosing to rent and not buy.
Okay.
So that explains a little bit about the rental costs. And we do have a problem in the area with affordable housing and affordability there. And part of it, again, supply and demand, and and lack of land costs to get more affordable homes, and even more homes, which would give a greater supply and bring home prices down. We would have to change some zoning and regulations. We would have to enable people in neighborhoods to increase density, to add multifamily in more neighborhoods and possibly for apartments or condos to go up, which is more affordable, and because of viewshed from Mount Monticello, because of a lot of things of wanting to keep the character for the town, people aren't allowed to go up, I think, beyond 5 stories.
And you would know, because you're part of the, not only you're a part of, but right now you're working as a officer of, and I don't remember, it's the Association of Realtors that's local Hill, the MLS board, what is
the
it?
Charlottesville Albemarle Association of Realtors.
And you're the secretary?
I'm the treasurer.
You're the treasurer.
This year.
Okay, so these are topics that you actually talk about there, right? Am I correct?
Oh, yes, and we're very involved in the community. I was representing for several years, represented the realtors in an organization called CAA, which is Charlottesville Alliance for Aging, and one of the focus things in there was we got into affordable homes. So affordable housing is a huge issue, not just locally, but all over the country right now. And I've been to quite a few workshops and seminars and things on that. But some of the problem is regulatory.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to skip to the next part of cost of living, which is the food and groceries in Charlottesville, which as an outsider coming to visit, I've been stunned to find Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. Now, Trader Joe's not so much, but Whole Foods is definitely, like, even for me, and I do very well, like, I kind of consider it a luxury to shop at Whole Foods. It's just all so very expensive. It's great. It's wonderful, but it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So actually I've answered that question. There's a lot of great like grocery costs, and it's slightly higher for groceries than other parts of Virginia, which I'm assuming you would agree with.
I would, although there are some affordable options, and I will say Wegmans, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Foods of All Nations are all really, really popular. But there's Food Lion, there is Giant, there's Kroger. So there are other options that aren't quite as trendy.
Now, one thing that I know sticks close to your heart is dining out. So you've identified to me that you're somewhat of a foodie, so I am on a very low level, on a limited level. The average bill for a meal at an inexpensive restaurant is $15, the national average is $14, and a 3-course meal for 2 at a mid-range restaurant will cost about $60. The price of a combo meal. So roughly speaking, a mid-range meal costing around $60. How good is that meal going to be here in Charlottesville?
Is that $60 for 2 people?
I think it's $60 per person.
Per person. It's good. We have some fabulous food. And it has been rated that way. I think I saw some magazine article that actually rated Charlottesville as having the most restaurants per capita of any place in the country. And there is a huge variety of food and ethnicity, but also price points and things. But yes, and in the city you do have, a meals tax, which then puts an additional, I think it's 5% on top of the regular sales tax for your meals. But there can be quite pricey options when you're going out.
So for anybody that's outside the area, as you can probably tell, Pam is not only a local, but more importantly than that, she's a humble, sympathetic personality. If you have questions about the cost of living, if you've got any concerns and you simply want to ask, Pam is going to say, just leave a comment on the blog. There's no commitment, no challenge talking to her. She'll respond to the comment, give you any answers that you want on the subject. We understand, she understands that I've spent some time with her. She definitely understands everybody's coming from different situations, some more so than others. And even if you have money, maybe you just don't necessarily want to spend it on certain things. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Say goodbye, Pam.
Bye. Thank you for coming.